more absurd college football delivers for us again. Field of 12, college football after dark. George Whitfield joined by my fellas, Michael Felder, Christian Hackenberg. Fellas, how's the holiday? How we doing?
Go ahead, Hack. I'll let you go first.
I'm trying to sweat all this out. It was a good holiday. I ate good. I tried to fast for like the past month up into this point. Was kind of like the wild caveman and deer stands and chasing ducks in mud holes. And I put on a show on Thursday, so I'm feeling it. Enjoyed the family time though. I hope you guys all had the same.
Yeah, I enjoyed the family time so much. I fried a few birds and drank a little bit.
Obviously.
Oh yeah, and then I drank a little bit of the bird, a little wild turkey. So we had a good time. You couldn't beat it. It was fantastic. And then obviously I just had a birthday, so we're in business, baby. Let's rock and roll.
And happy birthday to you. I had one on Wednesday.
Your Wednesday?
Yeah.
I'm Friday.
Yeah. Happy and what Hack? You're Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just.
Whoa, are you serious?
No. I wish. I'm a February guy.
It fits though.
But yeah,
it fits. For those of you out there celebrating a birthday, celebrating a big win, or you're gonna try and pick up a bottle and ease it tonight, grab something with us. We're gonna roll for the next 58 minutes. College football. Again, coming down the backstretch. This is the last full week of college football as we get ready to turn the corner into conference championships. And man, there were some knockouts. Field of 12 after dark. You can find us on all the apps. You can get the merch. Field of 68.shop. Find out what your favorite coaches and players are rocking. We're getting ready to go into it. Coming right off the beat. Normally we roll with the game we just watched with you. Tonight, the primetime game was the Trojans and the Irish. Obviously, we watched every inch of that. We want to get into that. But it determines today dictates so much more. And the actual biggest game we're going to start with started at noon today. The game, 11-0 Ohio State hosting 11-0 Michigan. And it was Michigan blowing the game out in the second half in a massive upset. By a lot, at least according to Vegas. No one up there in the state of Michigan thought that. 45-23. Michigan putting up 530 yards. That's the most we've ever heard about a defensive coordinator, fellas, ever. Jim Knowles, vaunted, very well respected. Hack, you said the other week that this was the biggest offseason pickup any team had. What was your biggest takeaway, Hack? Or no, you know what? We'll go Felder, then we'll go Hack, because obviously, Hack, you and I nerd out on the Big Ten.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna call a timeout because Hack, I agree with you that Knowles was the biggest offseason acquisition. I don't think the defense was the reason they lost that game, and I want to get into it. But can we get to our toast first?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Let's go to our toast. Let's go to our toast. So if you're with us, hey, you're with the fellas in the man cave. It's ladies' night out. You're sitting around a football office. Grab something to sip. We're gonna roll here. A toast to our favorite player, team, thing. Felder, you're all fired up. I'm gonna give the first shot to you, sir. Where are we going?
I am fired up, and I'm fired up for South Carolina. I'm fired up for Spencer Rattler, baby. I'm fired up for them. What they were able to do. Come on, baby. Let's rock and roll. Cheers.
All right.
Hackenberg, you want to double down on that South Carolina pick, I assume, or you going to go someplace different?
I'm happy for my guy Shane Beamer, but I'm going to go near and dear, something that I've been trying to figure out. I've got spreadsheets and pie charts and string, like one of those detective string things going all over the place for who's going to win the Big Ten West. And my boys down at West Lafayette, the Purdue Boilermakers, made it out of that gun show, fucking gunslinger Wild West shootout, and they're headed to Indy. So happy that that runner-up is all handled. So good for them. I hope they enjoy it. And
boiler up. That's what we say. Yeah.
Here's the Brom and the Boilers.
There we go.
Felder, that was the ultimate rock, paper, scissors all season out there in the West.
Yeah.
No.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
They were the ultimate Spider-Man meme. Like everyone, this, like who's who. Yeah.
You want to take a step? No. That commercial, that insurance commercial, where they keep trying to get the other guy to drive. No, sir. After you, sir. Okay. Well.
All right, George. What do you got?
I insist.
I insist, sir. The Big Ten West. First, let's do our collective toast to the godfather of college football, one of my favorite people. It was good to see him in Columbus tonight. Coach Lee Corso picked the Buckeyes. Unfortunately, the Buckeyes needed more than that, but we'll get back to it. Same game. The toast goes to one of my favorite people also as well in that stadium on the other side of things. Much maligned. There's only 2 years ago, people were calling for his job. They cut his salary in half. They did a couple other things that were kind of a little humiliating to such a guy who played there, had success there, won there, and now he's back. The expectations were always bigger than him, and all of a sudden, he's not just matching but exceeding them. Last year, he goes in, they beat Ohio State when they come to Michigan, and people kind of gave it that old, well, they kind of shocked him, caught him off guard. Not this year. Not this year. Big blowout win for Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh, who's got it better than us? They shut it all up. Yeah. Cheers to Big Blue and Coach Harbaugh.
For sure.
Back-to-back big wins against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And now we're off. Go ahead.
I give them all the credit. I give them all the credit in the world. And this is the way that I started writing about it tonight. I'll put it up tomorrow. But the big thing for me, Ohio State, you know who they you know what they look like now? They look like Peloton dad, right? They look like the dad. Peloton. They look like the dad who every morning gets on the Peloton, and you know what? He's ship shape. He's in good shape. He looks good. He's a little ripped up. And maybe he goes for runs on the weekends. He's got the running stroller. He's doing all that stuff. But you know what? When that garbage disposal breaks, he's calling a guy.
I was curious where you're going with that.
It's interesting.
He's
calling a guy. He don't want to get his hands dirty for real. And that's what I saw. That's what I saw today watching Ohio State. I thought it was a phase for them, where they were working on trying to figure out their run game, thought they were working on trying to figure out what they do defensively. And honestly, I don't blame the defense for this loss. I blame the offense, because they had 3 trips in the red zone in the first quarter?
Well, I mean, that was their red zone offense sucked all day. They couldn't score. I mean, they got down there, but they couldn't execute down there. Bingo. And I think that's a big issue. But I mean, still, man, for Ohio State giving up, what was it, 5 or 6 plays of 60+ yards?
But that's what that defense does. We know that. You know that too.
No, I know. But the thing is they say, Jim Knowles says, if I give up 7 explosives, right? Explosives are 15 or more. But you're talking like 60 plus is that's like an atomic bomb, and you gave up
4 of them.
Yeah, 4 Nagasaki's. Like, you can't be doing that, dude.
Exactly.
And expect to win at home. So to me, and especially a team that didn't have a propensity to show outside guys who can win. I mean, JJ had a couple wide open. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and by my definition, you got 5 or 6 yards of separation against Ohio State. That is wide, smack ass open.
Yeah, absolutely.
He hit him, and that I've been hard on him and that whole scheme in terms of putting him in situations. He hit him, 12 for whatever he was, 12 for 24. Hit the explosives, got it done. What I was really impressed with, though, was
tackles. The broken tackles. Like we saw those broken tackles when we talked about with Penn State, right?
Well, you go zero, and I think Ohio State's defensive backfield has been probably their weakest part of the link. For a much improved defense, that's probably been the weakest part of their link, and the tackling and physicality more so than anything. And I mean, it showed up to get them in that bite them in the ass a couple times, but. The other thing is, I mean, for me watching the first half, if you'd have told me that Ohio State was going to outrush them, pretty much out time of possession them, turnover battle was 0-0 at that point in time, and they'd be down. You would have never thought that, right? And I think it's hard because I don't want to take any credit away from Michigan. I thought they played a really good game, really tough game, and they grinded it out. They slow grind, stuck to what they had. They had 2 runs in the fourth quarter of 60 or what was it, 85 and 75 yards.
85 and it was like 85 and was it 68 or something?
Well, I mean, they had like 3/4 of their rushing yards in 2 plays, right? Yes. So I mean, great. Like happy that they got it done. Just a little bit disappointed in Ohio State's showing and how it presented. I think when you watch the tape, look at it on paper, it was much better than what the score reflected, but at the same token, the big gashes and the icebergs that they hit were so big and they took on so much water, and Michigan took advantage of that. And that's how I saw it, right? It's hard to sit there and say that to me, I still have a lot of belief in Ohio State. I think it's a very talented roster. I think it's a very talented team, and I think they have a great coaching staff. And again, it is what it is, and we'll see how these next few weeks play out. But at the end of the day, Michigan got it done. They capitalized when they could, and Ohio State just too many self-inflicted wounds, in my opinion.
You guys ever see that? You ever see that movie, Usual Suspects?
Yeah. Who hasn't seen Usual Suspects?
Well, a lot of the younger guys may not have seen it. Hack, you ever seen that movie, Usual Suspects?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Point,
so
to my point, a great, like a caper movie. Just think, Ocean's 11.
Yeah, I got you.
They're a little darker. Yeah. Everybody's got their
the greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled. But Kevin Spacey's in it, and he comes off as paraplegic and kind of a nitwit through the whole movie. And he's referring to their quote unquote boss. Well, my boss won't allow me. He's really a demon. He's this, he's that. And towards the end of the movie, not to give it away, but he is that guy. And there's a scene at the very end of the movie where he's limping, and it starts to reveal itself. And his limp irons out. He stands up. He starts to walk normal, and he's off and he's moving. And he let the world think he was one thing, and here he is, a total different thing. That hit me today watching Michigan, especially in the second half. They let the narrative not just sink in, but stain that they're only a great run team and a great defense.
Well, they did it without Blake Corum.
And they did it without their best player. And for everybody, and, styles make fights, and that is their identity. But they just kept the air game in the hangar. Don't come out here against Maryland with it. Don't show it against Indiana. Beat Penn State without it. Like, we'll just use very much sparingly. And out they come. And Hack, you and I talked about this off air. It wasn't like they threw it 40 times tonight. 13. Let me get the number right.
Yeah, I think it was 12 for 24 today.
Technically 13 for 25, but 278 yards, 11 yards an attempt. And they just put the challenge to their skill kids and their quarterbacks. It's going to come to us at some point, and we're going to see it at the end of the season. They won't be thinking about it. Our opponent won't be thinking about it. And Felder, look how many guys Ohio State had to constantly commit, recommit, half commit to the box. Yeah. All those defensive players woke up every single Sunday morning reading about Michigan. Wow, they bludgeoned another team to death. We got to protect our ribs when we get in this game.
Yeah.
They go in with protecting their ribs and got their head taken off. Right up top. And to top it off, Michigan 278 passing yards in the air. And Hack already hit you with all the explosives. But they also ran for 252. The majority of that was in the last quarter and a half of the game.
Yep.
Which tells you that's a hungry team, a well-disciplined team, and a team that really revs up for the back half of the fight. Rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they were busier than they were in the front part of the fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead, Hack. Go ahead.
I didn't have anything to say.
Well, I'm just saying that now you look at it, the question was, can they get through Ohio State? Now it's, who can't they beat in the country? That win was defining enough. They're that well coached. They're that balanced. Take the best player off of any team and put that team in the biggest game of their year. And what do? Blake Corum is without question their best player. He gave it a go in the first inning, or sorry, with all the baseball stuff, the first series. He gave it a shot in the first series, and that was it. Yeah. But that team did not panic. The offensive line had to have been thinking, really, we're what makes the run game go. That's an us thing. That's the 5-6 guys up front. And then whoever else is given the honor of carrying the ball behind us as a Michigan back, just come follow us. McCarthy stepped on up. Big game tonight. 3 touchdown passes, 1 on the ground. But they were so completely prepared for every aspect of what was going to happen. Marvin Harrison Jr., Felder, 7 catches, still had 100 yards. Relatively quiet day, though. Ohio State backs never really got loose. And CJ Stroud looked the most human he's ever looked. Might have cost him the Heisman tonight. But this Michigan team,
that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, who can they not beat? Go ahead, Felder.
I was going to ask. I was going to say, does this because we talked about this a week ago. This catapults between the win tonight and CJ Stroud's loss. This catapults Caleb Williams into the front runner for the Heisman, correct?
1,000%.
Oh, 1,000%. For sure.
1,000%.
Yeah.
For sure.
CJ Stroud, what was your biggest takeaway, not just of him, but what our impression's going to be left with from the season? Because honestly, the kid still had a hell of a season.
No,
but I mean, the expectations that we had on him and this offense were they outsized or they just fall short?
No, I think they were astronomical, and I think they earned all that, right? And again, I'm not going to make excuses for anybody, but a guy who we all had pegged is probably arguably one of the best college football players in the country, all around football players, and Jackson Smith-Njigba was not on that team. Now, granted, that gave room for Marvin Harrison Jr. to arise and a few of these other players that they have to grow, right? Fair. But the same token, that definitely hurts, and that's definitely some production. I just felt that the last half of this year, this Ohio State team was not as disciplined as they have been in past years in the red zone when money was to be made, and when Ohio State really, really gashed you and hurt you. They didn't kick field goals. They scored touchdowns, and they did it at an efficient clip. They didn't do it down possession in, possession out. They did it in spurts and flurries. Even the Penn State game, they did it in spurts and flurries where it's like, oh shit, here comes another one. Oh great, awesome, boom, 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 boom. They could pile it on, but they just weren't as consistent as they have been. And I think that really played a lot into CJ. I think he executed a little bit poorly, and I think it went back to a little bit of some of the stuff that I touched on when I just watch Ohio State's offense. Is they're very, very vertical. There's not a lot of possession passing game for Locke, horizontal stretch possession passing game. And when you get in the red zone, you cut that vertical aspect out. You got to have some guys who have feels for that, and you got to have some timing and some anticipation.
You got to have a Chris Olave.
Yeah, correct. I mean, a Chris Olave, a Garrett Wilson, I think.
You just got to have the system.
Yeah. Right, the system, and I think you just have to have people to execute it, right? And I just think that they didn't, top to bottom, coaching staff all the way to CJ Stroud and everybody else. I don't think they executed well enough in that area throughout the entire year. And I know that's probably going to be a big focus for them heading into whatever happens for the end of the season and then next year, right? I'm just such a big fan of Ryan Day. I really am. I think he's a hell of a ball coach, and I think he's going to get things fixed. And I just have such a deep, and really it goes for both these programs that we're talking about, a deep appreciation for both Michigan and Ohio State, having played at Penn State and played against both these programs. I have a deep appreciation for them and how they've done things. And I see Michigan thriving in the old school throwback mentality that I really jive with and respect. And I always watched Ohio State have it, and you're starting to see it not deteriorate, but you're starting to see
it's trickling away.
Yeah, it's almost like the entitlement that Ohio State never let seep into that building, into those players. I'm not saying that there's a ton of it there, because there's definitely not, but there's definitely more than there has been in the past. And I think that It's just hurt everything.
I'll say, like, I'm not gonna say, I don't think there are any soft football programs, soft football teams.
No,
I don't think there are. But what I do think is that there is a level of business decision.
right. Maybe entitlement's not the right word either. That's the hard thing. I don't know if there's a
no,
word
but
for
there
it.
are teams that are entitled, and Texas is one of them. I'll just flat say it. They've been entitled for 10, 15 years, and we've all talked about it. They've changed managers, they've changed coaches, they've changed rosters, and every time those guys, we end the season looking back on what Texas actually did, you can say it's still country club down there. It's still a canal. Management again, Coach Sark. I don't know if that's. I'm not saying I don't know. To me, it's not that. I look at this as Ohio State. It's in the first time we saw them struggle. They struggled with Northwestern for 3.5 quarters. It took them a late explosion to get out of who was at Maryland to get out of that jam. Like they were cornered in or caged up 3 or 4 times this season before,
but they were always able to get out of it, and then they couldn't get out of it.
Correct. Yeah. We can just overwhelm you. We can just turn and overwhelm you and get up out of here. Not against an opposite equal, not tonight. Not against a hungrier opposite equal. I don't know if it's such an indictment against the program or just a reflection on how they arrived. They have been so loved. It's imagine it's some kind of mix between the national adoration for them, like the Dallas Cowboys, but also the consistent winning like the Patriots. Like everybody, they're both polarizing, but everybody turns on to watch the Cowboys and now give them some winning. The Cowboys is winning. Mm-hmm. And everything Michigan does always has an asterisk of, well, we'll see about your Ohio State deal.
And they took care of it. Listen, I am excited to see that Michigan, the same way that I was with Georgia, talking to you guys earlier in the season, wanting to see them stretch the field, wanting to see them get, a little bit more aggressive offensively.
Yeah.
We saw Michigan do those same things. So to me, I like that. I really do. I know I'm gonna go off the rundown, but come back to the rundown. I'm gonna move something up, and I'm gonna go LSU. But
give me 1 second. I'm gonna go off that Georgia point here real quick.
Yeah.
Alabama reigned forever since Saban's been down there. Up comes Georgia. Alabama never even had a quote-unquote rival on the east side since kind of the Tebow days waned out. And it's just like they had to handle business on the west side, handle that just SEC title game, mere formality, get on with it. Georgia met the challenge, made the necessary offseason changes, made the coaching changes, made the recruiting changes, made the dedication, really an admin down. And then here comes Michigan. Georgia has flipped the SEC because they are now the landlord of the SEC. You still don't want to come up across Alabama day or night. You're still going to cross the street when you see the Roman army. It's not like you're going to try them. Mm-hmm. Are we not possibly seeing that in the Big Ten now? Has the landlord office now moved up there to Ann Arbor now? In much as how Georgia has done that with Alabama, accepting the challenge, then you got to go head up with them. And this is the second year they've now done it. Can we now say that the landlord office is now in Ann Arbor?
Here's the thing is I think that I think Michigan needs to take that next step when you're talking national stage.
National.
Because here's the thing, like Ohio State still to this day shows up nationally. I mean, they beat a really good Oregon team last year in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, they did win a national title with their third string quarterback.
Yep. Yeah. Beat Clemson in the playoffs, beat Bama in the playoffs.
Beat Oregon. Like they've done it on a national stage to me with those other gladiators that you're talking about outside of the Big Ten, right? Like Michigan is now, I guess I'm not going to say they've conquered the step of interconference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then they went up and played Georgia last year, which may or may not have been a fair comparison because of what Georgia was last year, but still went up and played Georgia and it wasn't even really close. So now I think for this Michigan team, the next step in maturity and the next step in this phase for them is to show up in the first round of the college football playoffs and win the damn game. Go beat someone.
Yeah.
Go beat someone that you're not supposed to beat, or outside of the Big Ten.
Felder, let me ask you this. Let's just shift
sir.
this here just for a second. You mentioned LSU. LSU getting beat tonight. They were on that doorstep. We got a couple of teams.
Yep.
And if you're rolling with us, you just joined us, welcome. Let's just do a quick reset. Field of 12 After Dark, college football's best post Saturday night, grab something to sit show. Christian Hackenberg, Michael Felder, I'm George Whitfield. We're rolling with you. We got about half a show left. We had to cover and address the big game. Now we're going to convert here a little bit. Yes, Georgia has a spot, and they won tonight, beat their arch rival Georgia Tech. The end, Stetson Bennett did his thing. All the superheroes did their thing. Georgia, Hack has an interesting point about Georgia here we'll swing back to. There is a seat. TCU took care of their business tonight in big fashion. There was no barroom brawl to be had tonight with Iowa State. Took their head off, got back on the bus, and got home as fast as they could. Fort Worth is buzzing this evening. There's 2 seats. Michigan settled the game. There's 3 seats. Now, when we come down to it, there basically was 3 teams, fellas, that all ironically have national championship legacy in the modern era. 2 of these teams more recent than others. Clemson controlled their own destiny. LSU controlled its own destiny. And here are the Trojans as well. Well, the first 2 botched it. Clemson gets beat on a late field goal by a team you would have thought wouldn't be sober coming down from Tennessee with South Carolina. Gamecocks go in there and they get them. Like, I'm honestly, that's one of the greatest untold coaching pieces all season. Your team knocks out Tennessee in the fashion they did. Rattler not only played up this potential, but plays out of his mind, and it's on your own campus. And they come back down to earth, go over to Clemson and beat Clemson, who this isn't a team that's packed up its stuff. They got plans to try to get in the playoffs too. Back-to-back knockouts with South Carolina. Clemson's out. Go rest. Clemson, go rest. You've had a long 2 years. Go rest. LSU, carrying the weight of the 2-loss team world on your back. We've never really seen it like this before. They could really bogart their way into the playoffs, handle business tonight. No big deal with A&M. Get on in there, beat the White Walkers. You're the skunk at the party, but you in the party, you're out. LSU gets rocked tonight by A&M. Yep. A&M hops up. Now they decide to play football, and now you got USC. USC, 1 loss, takes care of business tonight, fellas. They have 1 loss, and they beat Notre Dame. They still have business to tend to. They'll either see Utah or Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. The conversation now shifts to a 1-loss Trojan team who's still handling business versus a potential 1-loss, well, not potential anymore, a 1-loss Buckeyes team who stayed in the top 4 all season and only lost to the number 3 team, although not very good and at home. What does the race look like to you in your mind as we play it forward? Do the Buckeyes have a real chance to put their resume up and make an argument against the Trojans? Felder, I'll start with you.
They're not, listen, if they do it, they do it. That's the reality. And this is something that people don't think about a lot, but there's a 13th data point, right? 13th data point. Ohio State has 12. They have 12 games that they've played. USC, by virtue of winning tonight, they get a 13th game. That's going to push them. So I think that's important for people to realize. And having especially when they tell us in I don't know how much we believe it, but how often do they tell us that conference championships matter? So if you win a conference championship, you should probably get the benefit of the doubt. You should get you get the push. And let's be real. It's USC. Come on, dog. It's USC.
Yeah.
It's USC. That's the entire West Coast. That's the whole West Coast, baby.
No, not just West Coast, west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
That's half the country.
Here's the other thing, though. it's unfortunate because realistically speaking, the game in a Pac-12 setting would be a rematch for the championship. Like they would have played this game, and then it would have been a okay, 1-2 in the conference, go get them again next week, boys, right? So there's a little bit of disadvantage for the Big Ten and how and I've talked about this at length about how they've stacked the East so much, and I think they're going back. They're getting rid of this whole East-West thing and going back.
Yeah, the divisions.
Contenders and leaders or whatever the hell it was back in the day.
Legends
there you go. Legends and leaders. Yep. See, there we go. But I think that's a little bit of a disadvantage. Now, to me, the only way Ohio State gets in is if USC loses the Pac-12 championship game, and they're probably going to need help from someone else as well. I think TCU might have to lose in the Big 12 championship game as well.
No one's more terrified than TCU.
But TCU, Ohio State could make it, and TCU could make it. You still got that fourth seat. You're saying obviously it helps if Georgia, two of these guys get up and leave. It helps even more.
But we're looking at Georgia,
Michigan, TCU, and then USC.
Yeah, and then I think Ohio State's going to be 5, and they're going to be the odd man looking out. And I think they're still going to need some help, though. Yeah. I mean, I think that they could, I think people could make the, again, I don't know how they would.
Texas Tech just beat Oklahoma.
Oh gosh. Trevor Knight. Trev. At least half his partying tonight.
So OSU would be 5. Alabama would be 6 back come the Roman army. Right on. With no games left. Again, Felder, the scary thing is Ohio State and Alabama are done until they get called to go play wherever they're going to go play. Mm-hmm. So you say an extra data point can be added to the teams that are going to be playing these conference championships, but those teams are also vulnerable. The Buckeyes in Alabama board up shop and wait. And really just they're going to pounce as soon as somebody else
makes a mistake.
Make a mistake. In comes 2 national brands that TV follows, college football follows, the national champion trophies have followed. This is the worst possible thing for TCU.
And they're 2 programs that have the benefit of the doubt, too.
Correct. And they get all benefit. They get all benefit. Coaching staffs, legacies, brand. And I'm not talking the last couple years. You're talking the last
decade.
Really forever. Decade.
15 years. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And so that's what I'm like. I think TCU is the team in the most precarious position because at the end of the day, if you have to pick between USC and Ohio State because TCU loses in the Big 12 championship game, that's the part where that's what TCU is terrified of. Mm-hmm. Is TCU knows they won't pick us.
Right.
They're not going to pick us. They're going to pick them. That's the part. That's the big thing. That's why today
can't relate to that. Who can't relate to that? Felder, Hack.
Yeah.
Who can't relate to not walking in with a normal size strike zone in some situation?
No, first of all, Hack can't relate to that. This guy's been the man. This guy's been the man.
Hack been the man his whole life. But I'm just simply saying there were times at Penn State Hack took the field and Vegas was rolling with the other team. And there were times when he was a New York Jet, Vegas took the other team. Yes, he himself has been the man, but he's been on teams that have been under some shade. But I'm just simply saying.
Guys, I play football at UNC. We were never the guys.
Yeah.
I think we're a year ahead of the Tar Heels. But this year, you're TCU. Imagine being in that film.
But they've already had it happen to them.
They have.
Yeah.
Imagine being in that team room come tomorrow.
2014. Imagine being on the staff. Imagine being in the admin. Imagine being a fan.
Yeah.
In 2014, you saw yourself get leapfrogged.
Right.
So you have to be perfect.
And so far they have been.
Yes.
And they woke up and had a monster night. I think winning tonight by 50 plus points or whatever it wound up being allows them to exhale and look at each other and say, look, we got this. Rushing out onto the field and taking care of business against Baylor in kind of a first responder type of way to kick goes, and this and that. And as time expires, you're like, God damn, still undefeated. Like, it couldn't have been that celebratory. It almost felt like, okay, we dodged one. And Texas, we dodged one. And another game, okay, we played well enough. Tonight, they can lean back, flex, and say, okay, we got this. We got one more, fellas. We got one more.
The interesting point, I'll hammer this point home as well. I know it's super cliche, but all of us who have been in this position and been in locker rooms and prepared for games know how hard this is. And it was one of the points I brought up last year about Georgia in the national championship game. It's really damn hard to beat a team twice in any sport, but particularly football in the same year. To go out and beat, they're going to have to go out and beat K-State, and it looks like it's going to be a healthy K-State this go around twice in the same year. That's a tough damn thing to do. So we'll see. And if they're able to do that, man, it's.
Well, let's touch on TCU. For those of you just rolling with us and didn't see the game tonight, TCU hosted Iowa State. Iowa State, a notorious knuckleballer, a notorious season spoiler. If you look back in their history in the last couple of years, that was not the case tonight. 62-14. It was all frogs all day. Strong effort from Max Duggan, 246 yards, 22 of 30. Our producer, Trevor Valise, says Vegas now has him a number 2 spot for the Heisman. At least he's right now going. And that Heisman deal, fellas, we can talk a whole show about that. It was only 4 weeks ago. It was Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker, and CJ Stroud. I don't even know if we'll see any of those 3 in New York now, although I think Hooker deserves it. Bryce Young's probably been the most underrated big-time performer. Hard to say that about an Alabama player. And CJ Stroud had his first mortal day tonight, and all 3 could be watching the Heisman like we'll all be watching the Heisman, because a megawatt star down in Hollywood's been doing his thing quietly, and now he's getting bigger stages. And Max Duggan, 22 for 30 tonight, 246 yards, and the Horned Frogs, 62 points, 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns. The defense is starting to click up. These guys look vicious. It's still a question. Do we know if Kansas State won yet or not?
K-State won.
So they'll be playing Kansas State.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Hack, you've been saying this, I mean,
I know it's cliche forever. Shit,
but tell them.
It's hard. It's tough to do, man. It's tough to beat.
It's hard to beat a team twice
in the same year.
It is.
It's tough to do it.
It is.
And Felder, do you have any concerns about TCU handling the pressure, now looking over their shoulder, and you got Ohio State and Alabama looking right at you? Do you have any concerns about that?
I think today was an indicator of where both of those teams, or those 3 teams, I think today was an indicator of where those 3 teams stand. I think TCU, they're embracing that pressure. They know they have to be perfect, and they're going out to do I don't know if you guys did this in practice, but we used to do perfect plays. Where you have to, like, everything's got to go the right way, and you got to, and if you don't, it doesn't work, you got to do it again, and you 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 do it again. It's your script. It's the whole deal. You do perfect plays, excuse me. TCU, that's what they're doing. Alabama is in the middle. And then you talked about Ohio State. I think Ohio State thought they could just turn it on when they wanted to.
That's what they have been doing.
I thought they could turn it on when they wanted to, and then they couldn't.
Yep.
As you said, an equal opposite, right? They couldn't do it. They couldn't turn it on. Didn't work for them. And they wasted those red zone trips. They missed tackles that led to huge plays, bad gap fits for, Donovan Edwards to just scoot to the end zone. And so you can't do that. And so for me, I think TCU is they're dialed in. You know what TCU is? TCU is the kid in your class who knows they have to get an A or their mom is going to beat their behind.
Yeah.
Now watch them get knocked out next week by Kansas State. We'll see how that holds up. I'm just kidding. For all the frogs, I'm just kidding. We are rolling with the frogs. Let's talk about that. That front porch. Clemson, we talked about that. Clemson out. Got beat 31-30 to South Carolina. That one, obviously, I wasn't shocked by that.
No.
I was surprised, but there was no shock. The shock came at A&M. Texas A&M, who found every possible way to lose 7 different times this year. And it wasn't just App State. They had a couple of just mind-numbing, heartbreaking, what are you doing type losses. They pop up tonight of all nights. The Fighting Jimbo Fishers, 38-23 on an LSU team that controls its own destiny. Yeah. Beat the Aggies, get to Atlanta, pull off something crazy, find yourself into the playoff deal. You can be chilling. Not so fast. 38-23. A&M somehow, someway finds 429 yards of offense. They run for 274 yards on the ground on 50 attempts. That doesn't sound like trickery. That doesn't sound like double reverses or any of that.
It wasn't.
And for all that talk that we laid on A&M and all their coaching and the buyout and everything and all this about LSU, Lane Kiffin getting an extension, Mississippi State made a lot of noise. Arkansas was undefeated all through the first 5-6 weeks. It's still Jurassic Park. And it's not enough just to be a dinosaur every week. You got to act like a dinosaur every week. And if you don't, you find yourself on your back. LSU is out, which takes us to the last of those 3 teams on the big front porch there. USC Trojans getting it done with Clemson and LSU stepping back 38-27 tonight. A breakout night performance-wise by the quarterback. I also thought a breakout night by the coaching staff and Lincoln Riley, how they countered a lot of what Notre Dame is doing. Notre Dame really well coached. They just have a lot of recruiting work to do, and we talked about their struggles kind of going into the portal, being a private college. But regardless of all that, 438 yards of offense tonight. Caleb Williams, 18 for 22. And if you didn't see the highlights, I'm not really doing you justice. It honestly does look like some kind of weird mesh of a young Mahomes and then sometimes like a young Rodgers. It's like an 8th grader playing 6th graders. It's really what it is. Guys are trying to tag him and stop him and tackle him, and he'll run and stop and wait and then dash the last possible second. Nothing like he doesn't. There is no flinch to his game when he's playing out here. He's just like he's on loan from the NFL. Takes care of business. Hack, what was your biggest takeaway watching the Trojans tonight and Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I think Yogi touched on this last week, and he highlighted USC's last 3 games, and they've now passed 2 of those 3 tests. And to kind of talk about a team that's peaking at the right point in time in the season. It's a team that we always talked about. I always said I've never really seen them get out of second gear. They still got 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th to pull into and really, really pull away. And I think today they had to reach into the bag a little bit, and that bag was pretty much Caleb Williams. And you know, hey man, you're going to shoulder this, kind of like what you said. I'm not going to try to be as masterful with words as you were, George, because that was great. But he But this Notre Dame team came out and played really well. I think this is another team on the other side that really peaked well. I think Drew Pine came out and played a damn good game tonight, with the exception of the fumble and the interception that really killed him. And to me, the fact that Notre Dame played so well really positioned USC because it showed their growth, their maturity, and where they are right now as a program on a national stage for everybody to see. I think it's only going to bode well for them heading into the college football playoff and talking about this. And as long as they handle business next week, I think that they're going to be really positioned well to make some noise, specifically because of Caleb Williams. And I think what he's done all year has been nothing short of phenomenal. And I do think that he is the Heisman front runner right now, the way he's been playing and those Heisman moments that we're talking about. You know, this year there really hasn't To me, this Heisman race this year has been crazy because no one's really pulled away. It's always, like you said, it's been those guys that had those expectations and kind of coasted through it. The CJ Strouds, no one really ran out there and took it. I think tonight was the first example of somebody saying, "Hey, this is mine." And you saw that. You heard Kirk Herbstreit talking about it on the broadcast. You saw after the run rushing touchdown he hit the Heisman pose on the sideline. Like he's starting to get that swagger about it, and I think he really said, "Hey, this is mine, and I want to take it." So, really excited about this USC team. And again, they're playing with house money this year, and I think it's a great thing that they're exceeding expectations, and they're positioning themselves to possibly make a hell of a run here. That could be something that you're going to see a couple of ESPN 30 for 30s on, with Lincoln Riley coming in there and bringing in a whole 25 guys of free agents and putting them together and going out there and making some noise in the college football playoff and possibly winning the whole damn thing. So real excited about it. The Pac-12 came out and showed out this year, I think more so than anyone expected. And USC handled that conference, handled that schedule, and handled every task, with the exception of the slip up at Utah, very well. So excited about this team for me. I was impressed.
Felder, last week you said TCU is a team of destiny. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but that was one of your recent thoughts about them. So far, that's bearing out. Do you think destiny sprinkled a little something on this Trojan crew, who I said probably only a couple weeks ago, they just started taking the name tags off in the building. Now they know each other. Now they know where each other, where they can find each other. Now they got everybody's phone number in the team room. We're starting to get to watch this thing. They used to show up to the game and just pay the bill almost with exact change. Beat Cal by a touchdown. Beat Arizona by a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts now after watching them tonight against a really, really game Notre Dame team?
I think that this is a team that, again, they are growing together. I also think that part of growing together is this coaching staff. And Hack, I'm sure you've seen this with Parker Washington at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing it with Jordan Addison at USC, where they're hiding him. You put him in the backfield. Like literally, they had a play where you run your running back is your number one wide receiver all the way out to the left. Your number one wide receiver is just hanging out next to the quarterback, and then you run a wheel, and a linebacker's trying to cover him. And that's the stuff that I'm really loving about this USC team. I'm loving the wrinkles, the wrinkles, the spice. You mentioned does Destiny sprinkle on them? I think this is what Destiny is sprinkling on them. It's a really good coaching staff and a really good coach in Lincoln Riley that's decided, hey, you know what? Let's make it hard for everybody else. We got good guys. Whether they were here already or we got them through the portal, we got dudes.
Lincoln's always kind of done that too. I mean, even going back to his Oklahoma days, he always did that.
Going back to ECU.
Found creative ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. But that's the thing. Like, as a defensive guy, I know you guys are both offensive guys. So you're like, yeah, what can we do to make it hard? And I'm like, this is terrifying to me because I think about it as a slow football player. Like the idea of being like, oh, I'm coming down in flex zone to Y, and then all of a sudden there's a wide receiver there and not a tight end. I'm in trouble. This is bad for me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And I'm licking my chops.
I'm excited for this. And Trevor, our producer, you guys at home, I think we could find this out. This has to be the highest rated Pac-12 game of the season, both because of the two brands playing, both because it was at a primetime game that the East Coast could also watch. That's not going to end at 2 a.m. in the morning. And you got this megawatt star that has only looked like a megawatt star all year.
Sure.
And you have a frontline, big time, big game coach who's only looked like that all year. When you look at Lincoln Riley and USC made that $100+ million commitment, looked like it made sense. Then you got Brian Kelly. LSU went up there, made $100 million commitment. Absolutely made sense. This is his first year in the building. You think he's walked all the way around that whole football building yet?
Let me ask you something. What did you think about LSU in that ball game? Because to me, it looked like they pumped their brakes really hard in the back half of that game.
I think it's hard to say. I think those two teams are rivals. Like, they're the next closest Power 5 school in distance to each other. So a lot of those kids have played against each other. You're talking about an LSU team. Who knows how their building has been handling it, even with the veteran staff. We talked about that with TCU. Hell, we talked about that with South Carolina, getting past Tennessee, getting sober enough to come in there and handle business at Clemson. Who knows what was going on at LSU? Still their first year. To that, though, LSU went out and made that advance on Brian Kelly. It paid off. And now we have breaking news about Nebraska. And the killer part is I just got to wrap with him just a couple of days ago. And Matt Rhule, Nebraska signing Matt Rhule to an 8-year deal. Who knows how many centuries of football is he going to have to advance Nebraska forward to get into this deal? But Hack, you're talking about the great former Nebraska teams recruited well from Texas. They recruited well from California. Obviously, they competed in the Midwest. Matt Rhule now, some investment. I don't have the dollar figure yet. Trevor will know. But an 8-year commitment, it's not for $20 an hour.
Yep.
Nebraska finally stepping in there, going and finding themselves a real offensive visionary and a general. Look what he did. 2 10-win seasons at Temple. Then goes down and flips a Baylor team that was on its back to winning a Big 12 championship before he goes up to the NFL. Now he's back in college football, refreshed. I'm sure he's looking forward to being back on a campus. And it's Nebraska. They sell out. They sell out with all these losing seasons. That is the pro team in the state of Nebraska. What are your main thoughts there, Hack, on Matt Rhule and Nebraska's chance to make such a splash on that?
Yeah, no, I have a ton of respect for Rhule. He's a Penn Stater. Actually grew up in State College. I think his mentality really fits well, and I think it's partially that experience. I think the Penn State Nebraska type of mentality is something that travels, and I think that's a program that needs a little bit of that retro reminder of who they were and what they need to be from a core foundational standpoint in terms of what are the pillars you're going to build your program on? Are you going to be tough? Are you going to be physical? What are you going to be? And I think Rhule's going to bring the right things in to Nebraska to get them headed on the right track. I think it's been a program that really since Bo Pelini has been in turmoil with that and identity of who they are at its core. I think the success that he had at Baylor is going to be really big for him and from a recruiting standpoint in terms of having ties to the Midwest, Texas, Oklahoma, like that whole southeast, south, mid-south region. I think that's going to be big. Going to have to obviously venture out to California, like you said. But to me, I think he's like you said, refreshed, going to have a really good mindset coming into it. And he's going to have the plan, right? He's going to have the big picture plan and the foundation built. And I think he's tooled enough and he has had enough experiences of building programs the right way to go get the right pieces. And now he has the portal that he can play with. He's going to definitely put a great staff together. And I just think that it was a hell of a home run hire. I didn't think that Nebraska was going to be able to pull somebody like that there with everything that was going on. They did it. And I think he's going to do a damn good job as long as they give him time, let him settle in, let him figure things out, get the right pieces there. I think it's really a great fit mentality wise. And I think that that's even bigger than sometimes X's and O's and all the other bullshit that comes into football. It's a great fit from a core foundational principle standpoint. And I think that could make that team pretty dangerous out there in however long the West is. I think that team could be dangerous here in the next 5 years.
Felder, the Big Ten, as of last year, had no coaching changes. They had no coaching changes. Brett Bielema came in late at Illinois, and then Coach Frost got fired. Well, it feels like as soon as they got back from Ireland. I know he made a few more games after that. but the rich keep getting richer. They have rock star coaches all across the land there, and even some lesser knowns. When you talk about Coach Braum and his staff, Coach Fitzgerald and their staff, they've been to 2 Big Ten championships at Northwestern. Everything now that they're doing at Illinois under new management, the Fighting Trevor Valises, it's a new ball game. And now Nebraska turns the lights on. And they decide to go get themselves a commander-in-chief in Matt Rhule. You get 2 10-win seasons at Temple and you do everything you did down at Baylor. This might be the highest floor he's ever had a chance to start out on in his college tenure. And you see what he's been able to do with these other retool programs. Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do at Nebraska, but it's still Nebraska.
Is Nebraska still Nebraska?
Well,
that's a good question.
Look at I say that because look at the Trojans. The Trojans have been out in the wilderness for the last 10 years.
That's not the same. You think that USC is the same as Nebraska?
Well, I think everything is relative, but with the right leadership, and obviously they're well supported at Nebraska.
Sure.
No, it's a different animal. USC is kind of the Ferrari that needed a few things, but Nebraska, first he's got to get that horse and wagon and horse and buggy shit out of there first. Then he's going to have to clear out all the stalls. I would just burn it and start building your hangar, get some of that new weaponry, start doing some of that new age stuff.
He can do it faster than ever.
He can do it faster.
He can do it faster than ever.
Portal now, what Hack was saying.
Well, I was going to ask, what about Wisconsin?
What about Wisconsin?
Well, I think Jim Leonard. I think they got their guy. I think they got Jim Leonard. They could go flirt. They wanted to.
No, it's not about. I'm not talking who hires. Like who can go to scale? Who can scale faster?
Oh, honestly, the portal is your ultimate game changer.
Right.
Lincoln Riley and his pro personnel staff,
Mel Tucker,
guys.
Mel Tucker did it at Michigan State a year ago,
Wake
right?
Forest running back. What's my guy's name? A Seahawks. Kenneth Walker. What free agency has changed everything. It's changed everything. You can be way out there at the edge of the world, and then you can be running the world within 3, 4, 5, 6. USC signed 40 plus guys.
Hack, how old are you?
27.
27. How good was Nebraska when you were growing up?
I mean, when I was really little, they were good.
And then, right. And at least Wisconsin's been good since then.
Yeah, true.
I agree with you. I think Wisconsin has the benefit of more recent success. If you're talking about trying to touch kids that are recruiting, that say,
right.
Unless you're really like a college football savant and you have people around you who talk about college football and you nerd out about this shit, you go to the average kid's doorstep, they're not going to go, oh shit, Nebraska. Like me, I'd go, oh shit, Nebraska, because of the respect I have for what Nebraska was, right?
But you played with kids. You had kids on your team. You had contributors on your college football team who were like, Nebraska was good. Where is Nebraska?
Right. 100%. 100%. But the point is what I'm saying is I think Rhule is more of a dynamic. He's the right. He's the right person to do it. He's the right person to do it. Right. I said this from the beginning.
Him.
The Nebraska hire had to be a home run. If they didn't hit a home run here, and if they try to push this guy out too fast, they are done.
Bingo.
They're in the dark ages. They're in the stall. They're trying to figure out what electricity is again.
Yes.
They're trying to figure everything out.
But remember, here's that new game changer. The portal.
Correct.
Nebraska,
I agree with you.
I don't know
if Rhule can hit that.
If John Deere can hit that based up there or not. Get John Deere to get you a couple little NIL dollars. Warren Buffett sitting up there. You got a couple little seed companies and some cattle farming stuff. You can get some things going on up there in Nebraska to get some guys going.
And the big thing is they got playing time to offer right now.
Oh yeah,
and that's the big thing.
That's the biggest part of it.
If you're going into the portal, right? If you're going to say the portal is going to be my thing, you need to be prepared to say nobody is safe. Nobody is safe.
Correct.
There's not one safe part in my roster. Whoever wants to come here, you can play tomorrow. That's how Rhule is going to do it.
Snapper. That's down to the long snapper in the water, boy.
That's what, and that's Matt Rhule's going to have to do that. But that's exactly what Lincoln Riley did.
Right.
He said, "Hey, listen, every job is up for grabs. Come and get it."
But it's going to start with that quarterback, and that's the big reason why USC was able to hit the ground and roll. Coach Sonny Dykes had a guy there, didn't quite think he was going to be the guy, and he winds up rolling back in. Now he's going to roll his way right to New York and hopefully on into the playoffs with Max Duggan. Hopefully you guys roll with us next week. Conference championships will get settled and solidified. We'll be here with you. On behalf of Christian Hackenberg, Michael Felder, Trevor Valise, George Whitfield, Field of 12 After Dark,